Message for this morning is when God closes doors. When God closes doors. Here in our scripture, we find this account of Noah and the ark. Most of us knows what happened in the story, but just in case you skipped Sunday school when you were a kid, I will refresh your memory. Noah was instructed by God to build the ark back in chapter 6. When he got the instructions, he was over 500 years old. I can imagine Noah thought, I'm too old for this. But nevertheless, the word says that God found him righteous in his generation. This is important because God should be finding you righteous in your generation. A lot of times we care a lot about what others are doing and how others were, but the word says that Noah was chosen because he was righteous during his time. So we have to be righteous during our time. When God called him and spoke to him, God gave him the blueprint to build the ark. He told him how big he wanted it to be, what size, how many levels it was supposed to be. He even told him to put a single window in the side and put in one door, and he told him how high off the ground to place the door. Not only that, he was told what he was going to be putting in the ark and who was going to go with him in the ark. He told him to take 2 of each animal, 7 of the clean animals, 2 of the unclean animals, male and female, and he said only 8 people getting on this boat with you. And it's your family and your sons' 3 wives. Based on what we saw, we determined that it probably took him 50 to 75 years to build this ark. And he built it in preparation for something that had never happened before. At this point, no one didn't know what rain was. The water during this time would come up from the ground and mist over the land. So he had never seen water come down from the sky. And so God told him to get prepared for something that he knew nothing about. I can imagine that there were jokes coming over those years while he was building the boat in the middle of nowhere. I'm sure when people ask, why are you building this boat? He says, because it's going to rain. They said, well, what's rain? He said, the water's going to come from the sky. And they probably said, yeah, right. The word lets us know that when it was time, God told him to get on the boat. The animals loaded, he loaded, and then it says, once he loaded, they shut the door behind him. God closed the door, and then the rain started to come down from the heaven, and it came up from the ground, and it flooded the earth. This happened for 40 days, 40 nights, until all was covered and drowned, because the world was so corrupt at the time that God said he wanted to start over. Eventually, the rain stops and the water subsides, and Noah tests to see if there's dry land. When he finds out that finally there is dry land, he uncovers the ark and they come out, and God says he will no longer curse the earth anymore, because he cursed it during Adam and Eve because of their sin. Then he established a new covenant with Noah and his family, told him to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. As I read this, I thought sometimes in life we think that missing out on a situation is a bad thing. Sometimes in life we feel as though that when a bad thing happens to remove us from something, it's a bad thing. Things like not making the team, losing your job unexpectedly, not getting the job offer you thought you had clinched because the interview went so well, not getting the promotion you worked so hard for and know that you deserve it, or being turned down for the loan for the house or the car or etc. We view all these situations as bad and unfair. And yet we try to comfort ourselves when those doors close by saying, when one door closes, God will open another. Or we say to ourselves, hey, if God opens the door, then no man can close it. And so it must not have been meant for me because man was able to close it. And so we pretty much assume always that God will open a door. But what if God is also closing doors? What if he's closing doors with no intention of reopening them? What brings me to this thought is that in the account of Noah loading the ship, the word makes it clear that God closed the door. It says in verse 16, God shut them in. Actually, later in the next chapter, when he discovers that the coast is clear, Noah removes the covering to get out of the ark, but it was God who put them in and shut them in. That made me think sometimes the door closing is actually God moving. Think about it. The only time that God physically intervenes in our scripture is to close the door. Prior to this situation, he told Noah what to do. He gave him the directions. Noah and his family and whatever workers he hired, they built the ark. And God told the animals to get on the boat, and Noah orchestrated that. And when they finally get on the boat, Noah walks in, but Noah didn't close the door. God closed the door and sealed them in. So the question becomes, when a door is closed, how do we know God closed it? How do we know that it was God acting and not man? And so I'm going to give you some ways to know that it was God closing the door on that situation. First, when God closes the door, God will give you a notice that he is about to move. God will give you a notice that he's about to move. When God is about to close a door in your life, he's going to give you some type of notice. Noah's notice was given in chapter 6 through God telling him he was about to destroy the earth, that he needed to make an ark to be saved. This will be the same for us. When God is about to make a major change in your life, he's going to put you on notice. He's going to let you know God is not in the business of tricking folks. He's going to tell you exactly what he's going to do. The question is, will you recognize the notification? Will you recognize that it's God trying to tell you that he's about to move and close the door? You say, how will he notify you? Well, he's going to notify you because he will cause trouble to start brewing where you are to make you uncomfortable. You start getting uncomfortable on your job. You start getting uncomfortable with the people around you. You'll start getting uncomfortable about certain situations, and you'll start wondering, why am I so uncomfortable? Maybe something needs to change. Maybe I need to do something. He'll let you know because the Spirit will put a word or a thought in your spirit that your time in this situation is nearing an end. You know what I'm saying? You've been some places and something inside you say, you know what, it's time for me to move. You know what, it's time for me to get out of here. It's time for a change in my life. That's God notifying you that he's about to make a move for you. Another notice is that opportunities might start to surface that tug at you to take them, even if you think you're already in a good situation, you'll have a great job and be in a good position, and something will come up and strike your curiosity, and you'll say, well, why is this on my mind? I'm happy where I am. That should be you getting put on notice that the change is about to come. People will start speaking to you about a change, giving confirmation to what you may have already been contemplating. You'll be thinking about, wondering about, should you leave that job and start your own business? And somebody will say, you know what? You really ought to start your own business. You know what? You really ought to think about taking this job. And you scratch your head and say, are they reading my thoughts? Have they been listening to the things that God's been praying me about or saying to me in my mind? All of these things are signs that God is trying to put you on notice that He's about to close the door on where you are in life. Now, I know these various scenarios will put doubt in your heart because sometimes the notice will not make sense. In the text, what God was describing to Noah did not make sense. Noah didn't know what rain was, but even though it didn't make sense, he was put on notice and he heard what God was telling him. He heard God tell him at 500 years old to build a boat. So don't let the fact that the notice doesn't make sense to you keep you from hearing what God is telling you. It don't have to make sense to you, it just needs to make sense to God. And if God is speaking to you and telling you something, that means he must want you to know it. See, the enemy will latch on to the fact that it might not make sense because he's going to latch on to it to keep you from hearing what God is saying to you, what He's trying to tell you. But don't let him disrupt the message. God is putting you on notice. Also, before God closes the door, God will give you time to get your affairs in order and follow His direction. He's going to give you time to get your affairs in order and to follow His directions. In the text, Noah was not only given notice, but he was given time to execute the directions that God gave him. He was given time to get out there and build the boat and get everything situated and ready for him to go. If God has given you notice that a door is about to be closed, you should be using your time to prepare for the move, because it's happening, whether you want it to or not. He gave you the notice to give you some time to get it together. See, that time is for you to think about what goes with you and what gets left behind. And that time is for you to start getting some things arranged for this magical move that God's going to do. That time is for you to think about what you need to be doing to get yourself ready for the change. What do I mean? I mean this. Do you need to start saving for the change? Do you need to get your finances in order for the change? Is there a new degree or certification that you need for the change that's about to come? Or are there people in your life that need to be left behind on the next phase? You need to start getting that in order. Or are there people who need to be included in the change? You need to understand that everybody was getting left behind in Noah's change, except for the 8 folks, including him, that were in his family. Are there new skills you need to have, new knowledge you need to acquire to make the move that God is putting on your life? Should you be house hunting or new car hunting or whatever it is that God is about to move, this is your time that He's giving you to start getting things in order. You can determine what's needed or what you should be doing by praying and asking God. Asking God to show you what I need to be doing during this period in my life to get ready for the change that I know is coming. You should say, Lord, I hear your notice now. What should I be doing to prepare in this season for the next season? So you don't get caught unprepared. You don't get caught and get left behind when He closes the door. I know some of you are up in age, But don't think that age prevents preparation, because Noah was over 500 when he got the call. So God can be calling you no matter how young, no matter how old. When he says it's time to move and do something different, you gotta listen to him and get on notice, and you gotta start making preparations for the move, for the change. Also, when God closes doors, God will tell you when the time is up. He's going to tell you that it's time. In the text, Noah was told, okay, the boat is ready, load the animals up. When your preparation time is up, just like God put you on notice, he will tell you it's time to go. The question becomes, will you be listening for the signal? Will you be listening for God when he says it's time to go? When God closed the door for me, he told me today is the day. I got fired from a job and I walked into work knowing I was going to be fired. They hadn't done nothing to show me that I was going to be fired. I hadn't been written up or anything. I woke up that morning, stepped in the door, and God said, hey, you're going to get fired today. I said, okay, Lord. And so I went to work and waited, did my job, and right after lunch, they walked up to fire me. And they were waiting for me to look surprised, but I didn't look surprised because I already knew it was going to happen. They said, well, is there anything, we know this is a bit of a surprise, is there anything you would like to say or ask us? I said, well, actually there is. They said, what's that? I said, well, can I clean my desk out tomorrow because I got golf lessons starting a little bit and I don't want to be late because it's my first one. And they looked at each other so confused because they were expecting me to be upset, but I could not be upset because I had already been put on notice by God. Your shift will only be a surprise to you if you miss the notice, or if you wasted your preparation time, or if you missed the call that today is the day. So you have to be listening, you have to be ready so that you don't miss the notice. See, you can miss the notice by being scared of the move. And if you're scared of the move, you don't want to hear a conversation about change. God's telling you things are about to change. I'm about to close the door. And you were saying, Lord, I like my life the way it is. I'm comfortable here. I don't want to learn nothing new. I don't want to move from this spot. Why are you bothering me, Lord? And he's saying, I'm going to close the door, so you better get ready. He said, I hear you talking, but it can't be you because I'm happy right where I am. Please don't change nothing. And you're going to be caught off guard. You're going to miss the notice by being stuck in the unbelief of the impossible task ahead of you, thinking that, Lord, you can't be talking to me because there's no way that I can do that. It's no way that that's going to happen for me. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the understanding. I don't have the skills. I'm not even operating in that realm. So, Lord, what are you talking about? But what's impossible to man is possible to God. So don't let the impossibility of what God is telling you scare you into missing the notice. You're going to miss the notice if you weren't preparing, so the notice won't line up with your thinking. If you're not preparing for what God has in store for you, then when he says it's time, it's not going to line up with how you think your life was supposed to go. That's because you missed the other first two parts. You missed him telling you it was about to change, and you missed getting ready, and so now things are out of whack. And you say, well, this can't apply to me because this doesn't line up with where I'm trying to go. But you missed the messaging. God's been telling you. You've just been missing it and ignoring it. All these things put you in a position to miss the notice because you have let doubt clouds your ability to hear God. All these things are doubt entering your mind saying, certainly, Lord, what you're saying can't be, certainly, Lord. I don't see it, Lord. So you got to make it clear to me. And all that hemming and hawing and talking, God don't care. He's telling you what he wants you to know, so you might as well get on board or get left behind. Last thing you know when God is closing the door, because God shuts the door, not you. God shuts the door, not you. In the text, this is a divine movement. Everything is being orchestrated by God. God gave the directions. God set the time of preparation. God gave notice that it was time to go. And once Noah executed the directions, God closed the door, not Noah. In your life, if you are following through with God's notice about the movement in your life, God will close the door behind you. This is because God is sealing you into your next phase under his supernatural authority, which means that you will be kept safe during his supernatural movement. See, God wasn't trusting Noah to seal the meaning. If Noah did, the door might have blew off, or it might have leaked, or it might have fell open in the middle of the rain and messed everything up, made the ship flood. So God handled the important task of sealing the door. See, the task was supernatural because God was about to move in a way that he had never moved before. The discipline of the animals was supernatural. Noah didn't have to go lasso them down and drag them on the boat. They showed up and marched in ready. The rain event was supernatural. It was something that never happened before. So in a supernatural movement, you need supernatural safety. So God is keeping you during this time. God is keeping you when he's making this move in your life. He's going to shut that door behind you and move because this is God's action. This is God's moment. If God has moved you and closed the door behind you, you need to stay in his covering and let him work. He closed Noah in there while he worked on the things outside the law. And he kept them safe while he worked on the situation that was going on in the world. Yes, I know you're going to want to help God, but God doesn't need your help. Yes, you're going to want to crack the door open and look and see what's going on. Don't crack the door and look to see what's going on. God sealed it up for a reason. Yes, you're going to wonder what the people are doing that you left behind. You're going to wonder how the old neighborhood was, how your old relationship was, how your old job was, but leave all of that behind. God closed that door for a reason. You don't need to go cracking it open, trying to look to see about what really happened. The other side of the flood came with the new covenant. The other side of the flood removed the curse that was upon the earth. The other side of the flood came with the new mandate for abundance and success because God told Noah to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. So God told Noah to produce on the outside what I planted on the inside. God told Noah that now it's time for you to really thrive. Now it's time for you to build some new things and operate in a new way, the way that I'm going to lead and show you. Church, don't fight to keep doors open that God is closing. Because you know how we are. We nosy. We're going to fight to just crack it a little bit. Don't try to reopen doors until God lets you know that his supernatural work is done. He's keeping you until you're ready to flourish and thrive. He's keeping you safe until he makes the environment around you ready for you to flourish and thrive. He's covering you and protecting you and keeping you while he gets everything in order on the outside so that when he turns you loose into your new blessing, you're going to be ready. So that when he turns you loose into your new walk in life, you're going to be prepared. So that when he turns you loose into your new place, that everything's going to fall in order and fall in place and work the way that you expect it to work. So violating the door closing might cause you to get caught up in something God never meant for you to go through. Noah had got caught on the outside of the door, he would have drowned with everybody else. If you get caught on the outside of the door that God is trying to close for you, you might go through some things that God never intended for you to go through in your life. And you might find yourself banging on the door, asking God to please open it and let me come in. So when God closes doors, let them be. He's closing them for a reason. He's closing them to move your life forward. He's closing them to change your environment. And he's closing them because he wants to show you something new. And he needs to keep you until his time is ready. Amen.